Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tim's News Explosion. Back on the regular Monday evenings on this 8th of July, 2024. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel, the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel, and the Wilmsfront Rumble channel. Hello to everyone in the chat. Tricky Woo and Iron Duke 99. Thank you so much for co-hosting the Unshackled UK general election results live stream. We finished at around 1 p.m. Sorry, it was close to 2 p.m. The early afternoon Australian time, after Sir Keir Starmer had made his victory speech, after the Labor Party had officially a majority, over 326 seats had been declared for the Labor Party. We'll be getting to a full UK election aftermath very soon. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where today in our Supreme Court, a former Premier, Dan Andrews, and his wife, Catherine, or as he always used to call her, Kath, handed over their phone records to lawyers who are representing the victim, Ryan Melman, who Kath Andrews ran into while he was riding his bike in Blairgowrie when he was just 15 years old back in 2013, when Dan Andrews was the opposition leader. Now, Dan and Kath blamed Ryan for not looking both ways, and they claimed that he T-boned the car. And so this is Ryan here when he was in ICU. So as a result of, because the pictures, I'm not sure if this article shows the pictures, but the pictures were released late last year of the hired SUV that Kath Andrews ran into Ryan, and they claim he T-boned the car, but the front windshield is shattered, so it looks like they hit him and he went up on the windscreen there. So Ryan, he suffered a punctured lung, broken ribs, internal bleeding, and lost 90% of his spleen. So this is down here today, Ryan, who is 26. Now, this Supreme Court action is against the legal firm that represented Ryan at the time, Slater and Gordon, which is a Labor-aligned law firm. That's the law firm that Julia Gillard, former Labor Prime Minister, used to work for. Now, Dan Andrews, he has, for this Supreme Court case, he had already represented him, a lawyer, Leon Swear of Arnold Block Liebler, which of course the managing partner is Mark Liebler. Arnold Block Liebler have done lots of legal work for the Dan Andrews Labor government over many years. They are very close. Dan was actually going to go after he left the Premier's office, planning a trip to Israel to support their war against Hamas in Gaza, because obviously Mark Liebler is, since the October 7 mass attack into southern Israel has switched from his usual left-wing multicultural pet projects into defending Zionism. I digress there. So he was awarded back in 2015. So he was awarded $80,000 in compensation from the Transport Accident Commission. Now, Ryan and his father have said they were basically told, look, don't say anything about the Andrews, otherwise you won't get your 80,000 in compensation. Now, what is interesting here is that this Herald Sun article reveals is that, well, it doesn't really reveal, it just mentions that Dan Andrews, chief of staff, he was opposition leader at the time, i.e. when Dan was premier, was appointed an assistant commissioner for Victoria Police. Now, Victoria Police didn't follow proper procedure that day. They didn't breath test Catherine Andrews, and Dan Andrews actually drove away the unroadworthy car with shattered windscreen. So originally, Dan had hired an extra lawyer, Philip Crutchfield, KC, who charges up to $20,005 a day, was due to lead his defense before the last-minute backflip. So the phone records now must be handed over July 24. Now, that's only for the day of the accident. They originally wanted phone records for the past 11 years. So we shall see what they reveal, though, of course, in the days after, Dan might have made other phone calls that were in relation to the collision that they had with Ryan. Iron Duke says, what an utter scumbag Dan Andrews is. Well, of course, that was obvious given what he subjected us to for 2 years of totalitarian terror in the name of protecting us from a virus, which is pretty much just right now another version of the cold. D-Mail says 20,000 per day. That'll take Dan Andrews' taxpayer-funded pension off the 4 weeks for one day. But don't forget, he's also got that consulting firm now lobbying on behalf of the Chinese, the CCP. He met the Chinese premier when he was here at Parliament House in Canberra, so don't worry. He's he's earning a lot in, well, what you could call the private sector, but he's basically capitalizing on his connections that he got when he was in the Premier's office. So the current Premier, Jacinta Allen, today, she announced the awarding of more tunnelling contracts for the $35 billion suburban rail loop. And I'm not sure if any of you caught Richard Wollstonecroft's latest report from Tiger Mountain on his Facebook page and also on the Unshackled YouTube channel, which Richard lives near the North East Link tollway, which is being constructed. So originally costed at 10 billion, then 16 billion, has blown out to 26 billion. It's this monstrosity. Richard says it looks like they're building the fucking Taj Mahal. And the whole thing is basically a shrine to the CFMEU. This big build is just a quid pro quo because the CFMEU, their construction workers are employed on all of the big builds. The Metro Tunnel blew out again from 11 billion to 14 billion and won't be ready until mid next year. And it was announced today that the Melbourne Airport had backflipped on. They no longer are demanding a underground airport rail link. It's overground. But Jacinta Allen said we're still not going to complete until 2023. Iron Duke Dan Andrews, Victoria Police said, no problem putting pregnant women in handcuffs or bashing, pepper spraying 80-year-old little ladies. No, exactly. And of course, you had, who was at the time the main Victoria Police spokesman, the Chief Wiggum Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius, of course, the pinnacle of health, and said batshit crazy tinfoil hat wearing. DML says, I'm pretty sure Slater and Gordon written on the elevator directory in the CFMEU HQ in Melbourne. Maybe they just share the same building, but it is a Labor-aligned law firm, as is another Maurice Blackburn. They're also noted ambulance chasing law firms as well, sue for compensation for whatever has happened here. Now, John Pesciuto, the opposition leader, if you can call him, providing much of an opposition to the Labor government. He is currently overseas at the moment. He will be in court himself come September. Moira Deeming, the exiled Liberal MP, is suing him for defamation over the dossier that John Pesciuto compiled when he, on the second attempt, expelled her from the Victorian Liberal Party room. That linked Kelly J. Keane and Angie Jones to neo-Nazis. Now, he's apologized to them, and that's the end of their legal matters, but it's still going to the federal court. John Pesciuto versus Moira Deeming. That'll be in September. Now, in the Herald Sun on Saturday, Sam Groth, who's the member for Nepean, former professional tennis player, said that he wants to be premier one day, and this is seen as him firing the starter's gun in a challenge to John Pesciuto. So we shall see if John Pesciuto, when he arrives back here in Australia, whether he actually has a job as opposition leader. Now, let's go to, well, the biggest story in Australian politics. And given what we saw in the UK general election with the election of 5 pro-Palestinian, pro-Gaza independents, assisted by the UK Muslim vote, the fact that there is a Muslim vote that has been launched here in Australia after the resignation of, well, now former Labor Senator for Western Australia, Fatima Payman, a Muslim Afghan refugee who wears the hijab, and it's a carbon copy of the UK website, and they have already their social media and online presence is buzzing. So this is the Australian Muslim Vote website, and so it says that the Muslim vote is dedicated to empowering Australian Muslims in the electoral process. It provides essential information on voting, key election dates, analysis of party policies impacting their communities. By promoting informed participation, the Muslim vote helps ensure that Muslim interests are well represented in Australian politics. Now, they've got a list of the electorates where a significant number of Muslims live, and currently their only issue is on Palestine, their support for Palestine, supporting of a ceasefire. So Tony Burke, the employment minister, his electorate of Watson has a 25% Muslim population. This is according to the 2021 ABS census. So it has him as weak support for Palestine, and same with Jason Clare, the Labor Minister for Education, 31% Muslim population there. And then further down, it is these are all New South Wales seat. Chris Bowen in McMahon, a 13.8% Muslim population. Now, the seat in Victoria, which has the highest number of Muslims, is the seat of Colwell, which has 23.8%, which is held by the retiring Maria Vama Konu, and the Labor Party there have decided to select as her replacement. The irony of that seat being named after Labor leader Arthur Colwell in the 1960s, who supported the White Australia policy. Colwell takes in the outer north of Melbourne, centered around Broadmeadows, which has a heavy Arab and Turkish Muslim population. So they have decided to pre-select Basim Abdo. I think I've got this right. Hang on, just pause for a moment. Yes. So yes, he would be the first likely Palestinian Australian federal MP selected by Labor. It's a very safe Labor seat, though. Given their experience now with Fatima Payman, she was elected third on the Labor ticket at the last federal election over in Western Australia. It was the third Labor senator, Fatima Payman, that delivered them their working majority with the Greens and David Pocock, because Labor don't normally win a third Senate seat in any state at a half Senate election. It normally goes 2 Labor, 1 Green. And so she was previously a union organizer. Now, she claims that she has been bullied and intimidated, though, according to her Labor Party colleagues, she chose to freeze herself out of the party room the day after the budget. She defied Anthony Albanese, who condemned "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." She repeated it inside Parliament House after Anthony Albanese called it inflammatory. And then, of course, she crossed the floor to support the Greens' motion to unilaterally recognise the state of Palestine without the condition of a peace process. So initially, Anthony Albanese knew, because there'd be a backlash amongst Muslims and also a lot of grassroots Labor members and also leftist Antifa, who are the ones that have been blockading Labor Party offices and protesting. And so Anthony Albanese didn't want to create a further backlash against Labor from pro-Palestine supporters. But the Labor factions were like, "Oh, the normal procedure is automatic expulsion if you cross the floor." It's been the Labor way since the 1890s, collective caucus solidarity. So they consider anyone who crosses the floor against Labor policy a Labor rat. And so now the Labor, after a resignation, Labor last Thursday, Labor figures are backgrounding against her, saying there might be a Section 44 issue because she might not have properly renounced her citizenship of Afghanistan, though it was fine for them at the time to endorse her. The test is all reasonable steps, and I'm not sure how difficult it is to get through to the Taliban over in Afghanistan to double check revoking citizenship. So as there was heaps of heaps of colleagues, including Peter Khalil, who's the member for Wills of Egyptian ethnicity, Coptic Christian. He's also copping it from the pro-Palestine supporters. Samantha Ratnam, Victorian Greens leader, is running against him in the seat of Wills. And also fellow Muslim MPs Ed Husic, who is a Bosnian Muslim, and Anne Ali, who was born in Egypt but doesn't wear the hijab. But Fatima Payman does. So she said in her resignation speech, she said, unlike her colleagues, she knows how it feels to be on the receiving end of injustice, and accused the Albanese government of indifference to the greatest injustice of our times. So it was launched pretty. It appeared pretty quickly, the Muslim vote, and there's another one here: Muslim votes matter, which also has a social media presence here. Now, the Muslim vote, they claim that they're not a political party, but they are calling for candidates to run in electorates such as Watson and Blacksands with significant Muslim population. So, so this is quite a concerning development. And so, yes, so there's their statement saying that they're not a political party. Now, their only demand at the moment is that the Labor government recognise Palestine unilaterally and call for a ceasefire, put pressure on the Israeli government, and also not provide parts for the joint fighter pilots, which some of them, which are constructed in the United States, go to Israel. That's the tenuous connection there about Australia funding weapons for Israel there. So they've only got one issue at the moment, but they will certainly have more going forward. So, like I said, they've already got huge social media presence, and also on the day that Fatima Payman resigned from the Labor Party last week, there was the protest on the roof outside the public entrance of Parliament House by masked pro-Palestine supporters. Now, it was called a security breach, but if you've ever been to Parliament House or just seen aerial footage of it, the way that it was designed is it has a grass ramp towards the roof, and there's only the only thing preventing them from scaling up the front there is a not very high gate with pigeon spikes on there. So it wasn't designed very securely, and they're mainly endangering themselves by being on the top there. But so they had their signs from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And then they tied it in with the Aboriginal issues, no peace on stolen land, genocide 1788, war crimes were committed inside. And then one of them read out a speech, which was a diatribe of their usual grievances. Hello, Linda Hunter. Iron Duke says, why should Australia really care about Palestine or Israel? It is on the other side of the world. I do accept that there's a double standard, that it's okay for Jewish Australians to use their political power in electorates where a lot of them live, such as Wentworth, Kooyong, Higgins, McNamara, and Goldstein, to lobby Australia about supporting Israel in whatever it does. So, but of course, these same people who say, yeah, it's okay for Jewish Australians to lobby on behalf of a foreign government, but not okay for Muslims to do this on behalf of in support of a foreign nation. I mean, Australia should be putting Australia first. And also, the other progressives who've been defending the creation of the Muslim vote and Muslim Lives Matter is that, oh, well, there's the Australian Christian lobby, which lobbies on Christian issues. There was Fred Niles' party, the Christian Democratic Party, which had a pro-Christian political ideology policy platform, and then there was another party, the Australian Christians. The difference is that Australia is a nation founded by Christians. We still have the Lord's Prayer at the beginning of Parliament every day. Now, I'm not a Christian, but Australia has been a Christian nation throughout its existence, and it is a liberal democracy with lots more freedoms that there are in the Islamic world. The difference is that we have seen, particularly with mass Islamic migration to Europe, that that there are these no-go zones that develop where it's not liberal democratic, or where women are oppressed, that it's basically a Sharia zone. The Muslim majority nations that are democracies, such as, say, Turkey, Indonesia, and Malaysia, they're certainly not they don't have liberal free values like we in what have been Christian majority nations enjoy. So there's a key difference in how Christian nations develop and how Islamic nations have developed. But according to the Labor aligned pollster, used to work for the Victorian Labor Party as its I think it's as its deputy state campaign manager, Kos Samaras, who is now with Redbridge Polling Group, said that. He was just quoting himself in the Financial Review. I think people come now to this country for a new life, but they will eventually form their own sort of Australian values. The major parties need to understand that and evolve. They can't keep operating on the basis that migrants are going to assimilate into their political world. It is evolve or die. Millennial and Gen Z diverse voters will not be as predictable as their parents. Ignore them at your political peril. So Kosamaris thinks there's nothing wrong with Australian values evolving with the mass migrants that come here. No, thank you. I like Australian values exactly the way they are. And the Guardian, they had an opinion piece here by Signuk K. Misang. That said, Fatima Pay walked a path familiar to many of us, work within a system or disrupt it from the outside. And it's the usual thing that, when we try to speak up in organizations that have been majority white, then we are really pilloried. This is what they say, that you like us when we just toe your line, but when we speak out, that's when you arc up and you want us to be silent. It's that sort of thing, and goes on that the Labor caucus is not diverse enough. That the general population is 25% non-European background, non-Indigenous, while the Labor caucus is 10%. So the usual thing here. So written a book that Always Another Country, a memoir of exile and home, and the resurrection of Winnie Mandela. Now, the Labor Party, they are obviously alarmed at, the multicultural, diverse vote that they try to cultivate is now turning on them because because, well, they're not yielding to their demands on, well, it's, as I said, it's starting with the Palestine issue, but it will broaden. And so Anthony Albanese, he said that he didn't want to see that faith-based political parties launch again in Australia.
If you want an answer, you should ask a question rather than five.
You only give us one question. I'm asking all of them.
Okay,
You won't
well,
come back to me.
okay, I'll answer the one I like then. I don't think and don't want Australia to go down the road of faith-based political parties, because what that will do is undermine social cohesion. My party has in around the cabinet and ministerial tables people who are Catholic, people who are Uniting Church, people who are Muslim, people who are Jewish. That is the way that we've conducted politics in Australia. That's the way you bring cohesion.
Now, Peter Dutton, he warned that at the next election, which there actually could be an early election because Labor could be spooked by the Muslim vote starting to organise and will want to thwart it. Peter Dutton has warned that if the Labor Party is re-elected, well, it'll only be elected in a minority with Greens, Teals, and now Muslim independents.
Okay. And can I just ask you about Fatima Payman as well? The Prime Minister made some comments during question time yesterday that were talking about it will explain the strategy that has been in place for over a month. What did you make of that comment?
Oh, look, I think it was a political play by the Prime Minister. What you know about Anthony Albanese is that he's a lifer. He's been in Parliament for almost 30 years. He's a tricky political operator. There's no question about that. And what he's tried to do here is to spike the story of Fatima Payman, who clearly is going to go out into another party or into some independent, collaboration. I don't know what her plan is, but clearly the Prime Minister does. And I think he's trying to spike that story. I think that's what's happened there. I think what it does demonstrate is that the Prime Minister, if he's in a minority government in the next term of Parliament, it will include the Greens, it'll include the Green Teals, it'll include Muslim candidates from Western Sydney. It will be a disaster. If you think the Albanese government is bad now, wait for it to be a minority government with the Greens, the Green Teals and Muslim independents. That is not the formula for bringing grocery prices down and for getting our economy back on track. Inflation will continue to rage under that sort of a government, and interest rates will go higher, as we're seeing the Reserve Bank warn at the moment.
And that was the opposition leader, Peter Dutton.
Now, Dutton's comments upset Australian cricketer and Muslim who was born in Pakistan, Usman Khawaja, who you remember last year wanted to wear on his cricket shoes, "All lives are equal," to support Gazans and Palestinians, because obviously it can't be all lives matter because that's white supremacy, but all lives are equal is human rights. So he quoted Peter Dutton and said, "As a Muslim who grew up in Western Sydney, I find this comment from someone who is running for PM an absolute disgrace, bigotry at its finest, fueling Islamophobia from the very top." Now, obviously, Usman Khawaja has been an excellent player for the Australian cricket team, but it sounds like that he's potentially going down the road, and I'm going to get to them. They're the French African black soccer players who, well, did they have an impact on National Rally not winning a majority of seats in the French legislative elections? So, and this is the thing about, I was originally in favor, well, when it came to soccer, that we're only going to win the World Cup with basically a team full of Africans like France. But if they start putting they can start putting conditions on their participation in the national team. Well, if this policy is introduced, or if you vote a certain way, no more World Cups, no more championships for you. And now Fatima Payman, she admitted that she has met with the Muslim vote, but she's not forming a political party. She also admitted that she met with the preference whisperer Glenn Drury, because obviously we have the preferential voting system, unlike the UK first past the post, where under a preference system, every voter has to rank the box 1 to however many candidates they are, and then each candidate with the lowest amount of votes is eliminated until there's 2 parties left, and the candidate with 50% plus 1 of the 2-party preferred vote is elected. So this would make it harder, it seems, for a pro-Muslim candidate to win, because obviously the Liberal Party is not going to preference them. Now, when Fatima Payman, she still claims that she has the support of grassroots Labor members, and there was a welcome home party for her at Perth Airport. Now, this is, you have to remember, Perth, not Sydney or Melbourne.
She'll be serving as an independent for WA following her defection from the Labor Party to the Senate crossbench after calling for Palestinian recognition. Senator Payman says she wasn't expecting to be greeted by the crowd and says she appreciates the support.
I'm ready to serve them as an independent voice, to be their voice in Canberra. This is honestly the most humbling experience, and I totally wasn't expecting it. I'm lost for words.
Now, another prominent Australian who also attacked Peter Dutton politically was former Liberal Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, who appeared on The Project to promote the second season of his Defending Democracy podcast, which is basically about saying that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And Malcolm Turnbull is also the chair of Australians for a Murdoch Media Royal Commission. And, well, Malcolm Turnbull, he was asked what he thought of Peter Dutton, and he repeated what he described him as in the past.
What do you think? What sort of Prime Minister will Peter Dutton make if he wins?
I think that's something we should contemplate with dread.
Oh, really? Why is that? Why?
Well, he's a thug. And look, Peter's got one tune that he plays. I mean, and it's been all his political life. And that is division and animosity, generally targeted at immigrants. It is real. I couldn't think of anyone less suited to be Prime Minister of a multicultural society like Australia.
No Christmas card.
I mean, look, there's no point pulling my punches. It's an important question. I've given you an honest answer.
Now, if that was his opinion of Peter Dutton. Now, obviously, Malcolm Turnbull, he blames Peter Dutton and News Corporation for bringing him down as Prime Minister in 2018. Peter Dutton challenged him for the leadership and Prime Ministership, but of course, Scott Morrison won the final vote. So if he thought that Peter Dutton was divisive and bashed up on immigrants, then why did he, when he was Immigration Minister, enlarge his power with the Department of Home Affairs, which gave him the jurisdiction over the Australian Federal Police and ASIO and all the other law enforcement agencies? Linda Hunter says, remember when sport in the Olympics was a legitimate way to share Western excellence and help other nations strive for the same? Well, the Olympics obviously has all nations participating in it, but, well, nations such as the United States, the UK, Ireland, France, the only way that they can win gold medals in track athletics is with black athletes, so which get them gold medals as well, because sport is also about winning, often by any means necessary. And also, politics is about winning by any means necessary. So the final seat total, there's 650 constituencies. Now, in case you missed our live stream and the explanation of how the UK electoral system works. So it's first past the post in 650 constituencies. It's first past the post. So whoever wins the most votes, even if it's like 25% split amongst 8 candidates, they still win. So this has led to an incredibly distorted result. Now, looking at the number of seats won, so they provide no progressive results throughout the night. It's just they count all the votes, and then the winner is announced by the returning officer at the local town hall. So the exit poll came out and predicted a Labor landslide because it's done by seat. And I'm not sure if anyone saw Kay Burley, the old hag at Sky News UK. She had an on-air orgasm, it seemed, when the exit poll had the Labor Party on 410 seats. They got 411 total. The Conservatives, the exit poll had them on 131. They only got 121. The Liberal Democrats, under its leader, Ed Davey, who did all the stunts on the carnival rides and bungee jumping and Zomba, his party was, the exit poll said 61. They got 72. The SNP was reduced to 9 seats. Sinn Féin, the Irish Republicans, got 7, the largest party in Northern Ireland. The 6 independents includes 5 pro-Palestine, pro-Gaza, though none of them included candidates from the Workers' Party of Britain. George Galloway lost his seat of Rochdale, and the UK Daily Telegraph said, goodbye, Galloway. This was a triumph for Israel. Britain has breathed a sigh of relief. I don't know if they're doing the reverse of what when George Galloway won the Rochdale by-election, said this is for Gaza. Now, one of those 5 independents was Jeremy Corbyn, the expelled ex-Labor leader. Now, Reform in the exit poll had them on 13 seats when Iron Duke and also Harry Richardson of the British Australian community came off air. Reform was only sitting on 4 seats. Iron Duke especially was quite disappointed because we were all supporting the Zero Seats campaign, which was started by Academic Agent, a prominent British social media personality, or on Twitter X, is on Roland Rat. So the 5 MPs who were elected was Nigel Farage in Clacton. So he literally jumped in at the last minute and reversed his decision not to run. And it was his 8th attempt at running for a House of Commons seat under first past the post. So Nigel finally got, if you could say, finally got lucky under first past the post, or you could say persistence pays off. Now, his predecessor as Reform Party leader and now honorary chairman, Richard Tice, who not many of us like. He's about as interesting as dried paint, and he's also a he was happy for Hope Not Hate to do the vetting of Reform Party candidates, and was also behind the diversity ads for reform that we've got non-white candidates and supporters as well. Einjik says, I was, but now I think it was better than I first thought. So also re-elected was the Conservative defector to reform, Lee Anderson in Ashfield. Also elected was Rupert Lowe, MP for Great Yarmouth, who he is going to donate his salary to charity. And then there was the surprise right at the end. James McMurdoch, the MP for South Basildon and East Thurnock. Now, Nigel Farage described him as a paper candidate. He won against Labor by 98 votes, so there was 3 recounts. He is, like Farage and the other Reform MPs, a banker, and so a lot of the criticism of reform from both the left and the right, it's, well, you sell yourself as a party for the white working man, but you're all bankers. Well, that's because they speak to ordinary white working class. Farage, he has a gift, charisma, gift of the gab. He is eloquent, can talk off the cuff like Donald Trump. He can speak to the white working class despite being a New York billionaire. So it was good to have that surprise right at the end, but it's been described as the most distorted UK election. So this was, if you look at the vote share here, so Labor only got 34% of the vote, which was about 8 points below how they'd been polling, but they got 64% of the seat share. That's why it was called by the mainstream media Labor landslide. The Conservative Party did slightly better, 24%, got 19% of the seats. Reform UK, 14% of the vote, but only 1% of the seat share. The Liberal Democrats, they have learnt how to target seats that they know that they can win. They centre their resources. They've one of their spokespeople used the term we've made first past the post work for us. So they got 12% of the vote and 11% of the seats. The Green Party got 7% of the vote, but only 1% of the seat share, but they got 4. So that's their best result ever. Now the SNP and the Welsh Party, Plahu Silva, because they're regional parties, they win. It's easy for them to win in targeted areas there. So if you look at the seats per vote, so Reform, it was a million votes per seat. The Green Party, 500,000. Workers' Party got 200,000 votes for no MPs. And then going down the list there. So the Liberal Democrats and Reform UK, they support proportional representation, though obviously Labor and Conservatives, since it's easier for them to win majority government, even though their vote share is declining, it still benefits them. There was a referendum in 2011 for preferential voting, what they termed alternate voting. Also, preferential voting, it's called instant runoff, or it's called ranked voter choice. We are going to be doing France next, Linda. So Farage, he succeeded in getting Reform its foot in the door at Westminster. So they will have that presence in the House of Commons, even though there are only 5. But this is, of course, way too much for the far left, who, when Nigel Farage made his first speech in London as an elected representative in the House of Commons, it's worth playing the whole thing, even though it goes for 4 minutes. of all the hecklers who were there and were ejected one after the other. The whole thing was like the Euros 2024 football match.
Oh, that makes sense. Are you going to think well, this is good preparation for the House of Commons, I suppose. It's going to be very lively in there, isn't it? Oh, it didn't start. Any more for any more? Actually,
You're doing something right, Nigel.
Yeah.
It means you're doing something right, Nigel.
They will be actors. We've seen this before, but Channel 4, of course, has absolutely...
Get out!
The anger. Well...
Now, as you can see, Nigel Farage is good at the comeback, and he shares that gift with his friend and ally over in the United States, Donald Trump, who rallies were regularly interrupted by disruptors. And you saw him quip there that maybe they're all actors by Channel 4 because, of course, there was that last-minute stitch up by the Channel 4's dispatchers, where the most racist sounding reform volunteer was actually, well, an actor. There's no evidence that he was paid, but he's a part-time actor. But one of the things they say, you're destroying our NHS. Reform in their contract, it just said about fixing the NHS, because Reform knows that that it's going to be challenging to go to have a manifesto with massive cuts, because the UK is a welfare state, and this is what the Starmer government, it's going to be difficult for them to fix the NHS and also to commit to ongoing entitlements. Now, Iron Duke also mentioned up here that Reform came second in over 100 seats, and there were 300,000 votes off becoming the official opposition. Now, also a pro-Palestine candidates, they also came second in 5 seats, and one of the Labor MPs that they nearly knocked off in Birmingham, which is also known as Birmingham, 30% Muslim city in the Midlands. Pro-Palestine independents also won in Leicester, which is also large Muslim population, and in Blackburn. So Jess Phillips, a Labor MP, just beat the Workers' Party of Britain candidate, Joey McIntyre, and his assembled Muslim supporters weren't very happy and tried to shout her down during her acceptance speech, which was probably the most frightening scene from election night over in the UK.
Phillips, Jessica Rose, known as Jess Phillips, Labour Party, 11,275. Total number of rejected ballot papers is 120. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. Number of rejected ballot papers is 128. This represents a majority of 693, with a turnout of 49.5%. I therefore do hereby declare that Phillips Jessica Rose, known as Jess Phillips, is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for Birmingham Yardley constituency.
Well, a very close thing for Jess Phillips. She's just scraped in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See, we're going to continue with the class that we had during the campaign.
Excuse me.
It's all right. The election that I have...
This will be a warning. I will be asking people to leave unless we get this completed.
I will carry on with my speech. I understand that a strong woman standing up to you is met with such reticence. Anyway, this election has been... Can you throw them out?
All right, excuse me. Before we have our first speeches, that's final warning.
This election has been the worst election I have ever stood in. Today, a brilliant community activist who puts on events for every single part of our community came out to campaign with me, and people filmed her on the streets and then slashed her tyres. A young woman on her own, delivering leaflets, was filmed and screamed at by a much older man in the street. Today, I was to be joined by the family of Joe Cox, who wanted to come out and campaign with me. And there is absolutely no way I could have allowed for them to see what was aggressive, and violence in our democracy. And now to the positive. Birmingham Yardley gave my family everything that we have. And today, actually not today, yesterday, was the 13th anniversary of my mother.
Now, Jess Phillips, she went on in several media interviews to talk about the intimidation that her and her campaigners and volunteers were endured to, but she didn't mention what religion they belong to. And earlier this year, she decried the Islamophobia in Britain after October 7. So again, like the Australian Labor Party here, seeing the multicultural, diverse Britain that she's fostered turn against her in a vicious way. And she was targeted because she is part of Labor Friends of Israel. So is Sir Keir Starmer, the new Prime Minister. His wife is Jewish. His 2 children are being raised Jewish because Judaism is passed through the mother. Now, he has a son and a daughter, though he once said that he had 2 sons. This has led to rumors that one of his children is transgender, which his children had never seen, and his wife, Victoria Alexander, was only seen with him when entered number 10. So Keir Starmer says that he's banished Labor's anti-Semitism problem, but it's cost them 5 seats because, like in Australia, in Britain, there's a whole lot more Muslims than there are Jews. And this is part of what the Muslim Vote organization has been created to show we've got the political power now. You've got to put our interests if you want our votes. Because we're a significant voting bloc now. Now, the UK has 5-year parliamentary terms. So Keir Starmer, he will have a decent run at being Prime Minister, though he's going to be hated very quickly because he doesn't have a magic wand to fix Britain, because he's a left-wing socialist, and the only leaders who have magic wands are libertarians like Javier Milei, because libertarianism always works. I digress here. So in his first speech outside Downing Street, Keir Starmer spoke of the UK needing a reset.
And it is surely clear to everyone that our country needs a bigger reset, a rediscovery of who we are, because no matter how fierce the storms of history, one of the great strengths of this nation has always been our ability to navigate a way to calmer waters. And yet this depends upon politicians, particularly those who stand for stability and moderation, as I do, recognizing when we must change course. For too long now, we've turned a blind eye as millions slid into greater insecurity.
Now, also who talked about a reset was his new Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, who is going to have an awkward first meeting with Donald Trump, because this is what he tweeted way back when Trump visited during his first term. Deluded, dishonest, xenophobic, narcissistic Donald Trump is no friend of Britain. He is not fit to hold public office, let alone worthy of our country's highest honours and a banquet with the Queen. Theresa May is selling out the UK to a serial liar and a cheat. That is the UK's highest diplomat now. And in his first video, well, he talked about resetting the foreign agenda, and also he's a black man, and so there was a lot of critical race theory in his introductory video.
It is the honour of my life to stand before you as Foreign Secretary, a descendant of enslaved people, a black working-class man from Tottenham, a community which has never produced a Foreign Secretary before. This speaks to what a modern, multicultural Britain can be. Proudly internationalist, determined to deliver for working people, and committed to building a better future for us all. Britain has enormous potential, but the world faces huge challenges. More countries engaged in conflict than at any time since World War II. Rapidly changing technology and a climate emergency. The government will reconnect Britain for our security and our prosperity at home. What happens here in the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office is essential. Diplomacy matters. We will begin with a reset with Europe on climate and with the Global South, and a gear shift when it comes to delivering on European security, global security and British growth. My story is a story of progress. Progress won by all those who fought for a better future. Together, let us fight for a better future once again. Change begins now.
Now, David Lammy also believes that trans women can grow cervixes through hormones and various other treatments.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix, David?
I don't know if it's transphobic, but it's not accurate, Nick. I mean, obviously, it's probably the case that only that trans women don't have ovaries, but a cervix, I understand, is something that you can have following various procedures and hormone treatment and all the rest of it.
Maybe in the future they'll inject trans women with massive amounts of atrazine. Remember that that chemical that in amphibians can turn males into females that RFK Jr. talked about. So there's a thing to explore. Now, also, David Lammy, his eyesight's not that good. This is this is what he said back in 2018, talking about the lack of police officers in his constituency of Tottenham in North London.
It's not around you. We haven't seen a police while I've been here, and I've been here for a little while now. We haven't seen a police while I've been here, and I've been here for a little while. While I've been here, and
the police officer standing just down the road behind you. So yes, that is the clown of a foreign secretary that Keir Starmer has appointed. Now, Rishi Sunak, he talked about that multicultural Britain, him becoming prime minister, he and his wife and daughters lighting Diwali candles in number 10, and Keir Starmer in his full speech outside number 10 said that Rishi Sunak, what did you call it, breaking the glass ceiling when it comes to race, being the first, they call it Indians Asians over there, said first British Asian prime minister. Now, despite Rishi Sunak, the Conservatives' DEI leader and prime minister, leading them to electoral disaster, the Conservatives are going to, well, do more of the same. This is the top 4 Conservative leadership candidates, so who all got returned. So James Cleverly, the former Home Secretary, who is a One Nation Tory, which is basically their left-wing moderate faction. Then there's the 3 women of colour, Priti Patel, Boris Johnson's Home Secretary, who is supposedly on the right of the party, though she was pretty useless in stopping the boats. Also, Suella Braverman was also useless at stopping the boats when she was Home Secretary. She is also of the ethnicity is from the subcontinent. Priti Patel, she was actually born in Uganda. She's a Ugandan Indian. And then there is the former Equalities Minister, Kemi Badenoch, who is ethnically Nigerian, born in London though, and has the African dreads there. So looks like more of the same. They don't know really what they're going to do. Now, like with how Joe Biden as the president's basically Barack Obama running the administration, with Keir Starmer, it's actually Tony Blair who is back in charge, and so he has his people from the Tony Blair Institute are trying to fix the NHS and also overcrowded prisons, which is to allow 40,000 inmates early to ease prison crisis. And will that include Sam Malaya, wife of Laura Taylor, a patriotic alternative, for putting up lawful stickers against mass migration? Will it include the Reverend James Costello for publishing his pro-white religion on his website? Will it include Alex Belfield, who is in prison for 5 years for making videos mocking Jeremy Vine and other BBC personalities? They're all non-violent offenders. Why aren't they going? They should be the first to be released there. Why, if you want to make sure that non-violent people are not in prison, well, there's three cells that'll be empty by tomorrow. And also Tony Blair, his idea to stop the boats and control the borders is digital ID, which of course he was in favor of for the COVID passport jabs. So yes, Tony Blair, he's come in as basically the puppet master, and he is trying to implement the final stage of his globalist agenda. And of course, he is the red hot favorite to take over as the chair of the World Economic Forum from Klaus Schwab when he steps down at the end of the year. Margaret Huss says, are these guys all British pollies? Yes, that is. We've just finished the UK report, Margot. Linda says, oh, so Tony gets to create the problem then come back with another rinse. Well, the Tories obviously accelerated the problem. David Cameron, of course, was basically continued Blairism under the Conservative name. Remember, he wanted people to feel good about being conservative again, be cool conservatives, hip, not like those stuffy old men around Margaret Thatcher, like Geoffrey Howe and Nigel Lawson and Norman Tebbit. And how's that worked out for them? Now, moving on to the winners of the French legislative election. The French the African players in the French men's soccer team, because of course many of them decided to make an unprecedented intervention into the election led by their captain, Kylian Mbappe. So he called at the end of the first round of voting. He said it was that the first round was catastrophic, urging voters to turn out in force and fend off the threat from the National Rally Control government. And also he had other team members who had said to French, particularly French youth, to turn out to vote against National Rally was Ousmane Dembélé, who is a Muslim, and Marcus Thuram, who I think he's a Christian. He's definitely not a Muslim. He's the son of a famous French footballer who's a massive SJW and anti-far righter. And then the latest was defender Jules Condé said he was disappointed with the level of support for the party that seek to take away our freedom and take away the fact that we live together. He stated previous non-voters must be persuaded at the ballot box in order to ensure the extreme right do not gain absolute majority. So Jules Condé plays for Barcelona at the club level, and he decided to turn up to the Euros in a high heels, and so you say a fashionista there. And I remember Candace Owens talking about how she calls that a humiliation ritual, how black men who, well, black culture is traditionally masculine, and you see him there, well, looking, what does it look? Looking very, what is that? Like a postmodern male there. Now, Kylian Mbappe, the captain, he said that he wouldn't want to represent a French team, or represent France, represent a country that doesn't represent his values. And he is had a record transfer over to Real Madrid. He is of Algerian and Cameroonian ethnicity. He says that he's a Christian, though he did wear the Pride jersey for when he was playing for Paris Saint-Germain, even though they're owned by one of those Middle Eastern companies with lots of money. So this is him running around in the Pride jersey. They've ditched the Pride jerseys now in the French League One because not enough players decided to boycott it, mainly the Muslim ones. Now, maybe the reason Kylian Mbappe was wearing the Pride jersey because he dated a trans woman for a while. Does that make him gay? Well, all his other girlfriends, as far as we know, have been biological females. Though he was spotted when he was embracing one of the Moroccan players after they beat Morocco in the 2022 FIFA World Cup semi-finals with a visible boner there. So it seems that it did have an impact. Probably wasn't the deciding factor, because what happened, so what the French have in both their presidential system and also in their legislative election is what is called instant runoff. So they have two rounds. So they have, in the first election, if a candidate doesn't win a majority of the vote, so it's with over 50% of the vote, or with over 25% turnout, then they go to a second round of voting. And so what happened in the second round is all of the other political groupings, the left, the Left Alliance, the Emmanuel Macron centrists, and the centre right, all told the French voters, in whatever electorate that you're in the runoff, vote for the candidate who is not from the National Rally. And it worked because and I'll bring up the graph here. This was the final vote here. So the left-wing alliance, the New Popular Front, 182 seats. Then Macron's centrist Ensemble, 168, and the National Rally came third with 143 seats. So this is just the exit poll, though it is considered accurate, like the UK exit poll. Now, so the National Rally candidate for Prime Minister, Jordan Bardella, won't become Prime Minister, only 28. Marine Le Pen she is going to run again in 2027. This is always what's happened. Now, I know there's criticisms of various voting systems, our preferential system, and of the French system, where in the second round, the runoff, they're always able to defeat National Rally and Le Pen in the runoff by telling them to vote for. But I believe that you do need to have a candidate somehow who is elected with 50% plus 1% of the vote. Because I think the most ridiculous result in the UK election, first past the post, was Liz Truss, the former Conservative Prime Minister, just for how many days was it? Like 49 days. Lost her seat with Labor got 26%. She got 25%. Reform got 22%, and then there was another independent on about 12%. Absolutely ridiculous. Liz Truss is blamed for tanking the economy and tanking the Tories in the polls, but she is just a convenient scapegoat. But I still don't like her because she was for turning on her mini budget, so it meant that she wasn't the second coming of Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. Linda Hunter says that what comedian actor spoke to the wearing a dress cock gobbling ritual in movies? Now, moving over to US news. And so Joe Biden, he told George Stephanopoulos on ABC that only that God Almighty could convince him to drop out of the race. So I think a lot of Christians saying, "May the Lord smite him down." And there was this hilarious deep fake of what George Stephanopoulos talking to Joe Biden. This is not real.
After the debate, we ran a poll, and every single person we polled thinks that you're a retard. We polled African Americans. They all say you're a retard. Hispanic Americans also think that you're retarded. They call you El Retardo. We even polled actual retarded people. Even they say you sound absolutely retarded. You see where this is going, Mr. President?
Well, I just had a bad night.
Now, what is 100% real? It was Joe Biden claiming that he was the first African American female vice president to a black president. Actually, I don't think I've got that here. But what I do have here is obviously hope that all of patriotic Americans had an awesome 4th of July Independence Day, though Joe Biden thought that he got his holidays mixed up, thought it was Christmas.
And we give thanks to our Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, the extraordinary President of the United States
Happy Independence Day.
And now, so as I've said previously, they're basically going to have to kill, euthanize, put down Joe Biden to get him out of the race. Obviously, Kamala Harris is, well, even though she has low approval ratings, if they didn't select her, then it wouldn't go down well with the African American Democrat voting base. And this reminds me of another deep fake after the Biden's disastrous first debate. This is a deep fake from CNN.
Who won the debate?
Well, it's of CNN. Obviously not CNN, but it's made out to be like it was said on CNN.
Who won the debate? We asked debate watchers in our instant poll, and the answer is a resounding Donald Trump did. 67% of debate watchers in our poll say Donald Trump won the debate tonight. Joe Biden, 33% say he won the debate tonight. I mean, guys, at this point, I don't give a shit if they bring out Gavin Newsom or maybe Hillary Clinton or even Big Mike. Even Michelle Obama. Sorry, I don't know why I said Big Mike. Back to you, Jake.
No, I've seen that like 10 times. It's still funny as fuck. Obviously, if Michelle Obama, which Roger Stone, Trump's confidant, believes will be the nominee, Michelle Obama would have to address the Big Mike that Michelle Obama was born, Michael Robinson, would have to address that once and for all. Though Michelle Obama's, the Obamas have never sued Alex Jones or anyone else for saying that Michelle Obama's a man. Though Brigitte Macron, Emmanuel Macron's wife, is suing French publications for claiming that she was born a man. So obviously, the mainstream media and the Democrats, they are now panicking because Trump, he was extremely cool and composed, looked presidential in the debate. So now what they are trying to scare the American voters about is Project 2025, which was put together by the Heritage Foundation and other conservative groups. I'll put the link into the YouTube chat here so you can look through it. 900 pages. And this is a summary that the Biden-Harris HQ put together about what Project 2025 is, that they describe Trump's plan for Trump's second term: put Medicare on the path to privatization, repeal President Biden's Medicare drug price negotiation program, threaten Medicare coverage for hundreds of thousands of Americans, reverse the Biden administration's student debt relief efforts, withdraw from the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Climate Agreement, repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, President Biden's landmark climate law, shred greenhouse gas regulations and cut clean energy programs, replace the White House climate advisor with someone focused on boosting the fossil fuel industry, give Trump the power to reject all climate science research directed by the Biden administration, gut the federal workforce and install loyalists by making tens of thousands of civil servants fireable at Trump's will, allow Trump to deploy the military against American citizens, allow ICE to conduct raids at schools, churches, hospitals, playgrounds, and other sensitive areas, make federal government establish marriage between a man and a woman as the ideal natural family structure, withdraw federal anti-discrimination protections for transgender students, re-implement Trump's transgender military ban and expel transgender service members, reverse the FDA's approval of abortion medications, invoke a 150-year-old defunct law called the Comstock Act to ban the shipment of abortion pills, enacting de facto national abortion ban, compel states to report the reason for every abortion performed within their borders, allow states to ban employers from providing health benefits that cover abortion care. Now, obviously, that's the Democrat slant on what Project 2025 says, but members of this audience would be broadly supportive of most of what is listed there in Project 2025. Though Trump, because he, in his first term, had no interest in cutting spending and welfare entitlements, and he is backtracking from the pro-life position. He said that he's not going to sign a 15-week federal abortion ban because I'm pretty black-pilled on the pro-life. Well, a momentum now. It seems like there was a lot of optimism after Roe versus Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court, but the pro-abortionists have won every single vote on state ballot measures. There's a whole lot more coming up this November, including in Florida. And so Trump has disavowed Project 2025. He has said, I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who is behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. So yes, Trump is, well, his main focus is winning. And so he's just going to stick to the immigration issue and bringing jobs back to the United States. And he's going to ditch anything which he believes will alienate independence. Because let's remember that Trump, there was a lot that he promised to do in his first term but didn't. The most obvious was that he didn't appoint a special prosecutor to oversee Hillary Clinton's deleted email server. Now, Nick Fuentes, host of America First, he's got a new professional set now. He's basically become a bit like Ann Coulter, a former Trumper now. And, he said that, this is, the new Trump, disavowing anything that's based conservative nationalist.
All these people, they were coping about, hey, the Trump campaign's not so bad. We got Project 2025. Trump disavows it. And I saw some people say, some of them I'm friends with, they said, hey, guys, it's okay, it's fine, because he's only disavowing the policies, but they're still going to take the personnel. And then a Trump advisor came out within hours and said, nope, we're not taking the personnel either. So it's no policy, no personnel. You're getting Bill Ackman. Okay, newsflash. You are not getting John McEntee. You are not getting anybody based. You are getting Bill Ackman. You are getting Peter Thiel. You are getting Israel. You are getting Indian immigrants. And you're going to like.
So he stitched the green screen, Nick Fuentes. People are saying that his new set looks like it's the set from the Murray Franklin show on the Joker film, which spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, is that Joker Arthur Fleck, he live on his own television program. So Murray Franklin, who's played by Robert De Niro, Arthur Fleck shoots Murray Franklin in the head live on TV there. There's a Joker 2 is coming out later this year. It's a musical with Joaquin Phoenix, he reprising Arthur Fleck, and Lady Gaga playing his female accomplice. Linda Hunter says they are withholding cancer treatment from a 7-year-old pro-life woman they locked up for praying some shit in the vicinity of a clinic for despair. Yeah, this is how bad things have got in the United States when there's exclusion zones around abortion clinics like there are in Australia. And now I might finish off with, you could describe it as e-drama, but it is the battle of ideas. It's part of the information warfare on what you'd say is on the dissident right. So she was originally known as a doctor who campaigning against gender transition. So her name is, you might have seen her, Dr. Anastasia Maria Lopez. Since October 7, she has been anti-Zionist and anti-Jewish supremacy. She posted a tweet, "Jewish contributions," and has a photo of here of who either owned or founded OnlyFans, Pornhub, Tinder, and Grindr, and mentions that they're all Jewish. And Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela Peterson, who many people point out wouldn't be famous if she wasn't Jordan Peterson's daughter. She's actually married now, and her name is Michaela Fuller, but obviously she will professionally known as Michaela Peterson to keep with the branding. Her response was not to decry that big porn is pervading all of modern society now, but what she actually decided to say was, "I cannot believe I'm seeing Nazis in my timeline that didn't grow up in a cave." She's an MD, spewing cherry-picked data while completely ignoring the facts like almost 30% of Nobel Peace Prize winners are Jews. Maybe there does need to be some more content moderation, Elon Musk's. So she no longer supports free speech like she did in the past, and thinks there needs to be limits. This reminds me of when Candace Owens said, "I'm going to find out who is behind pornography," and people in the comments said this is anti-Semitism. So a lot on the dissident right believe that pornography has a antisocial influence on particularly young men and boys, but it's when you just point out when they're, because they are facts that there a lot of either the owners or management behind pornography websites are Jewish. That's just a fact. But it's one of those things which is a hate fact. Obviously, there are non-Jewish owners and managers of big porn websites. I think the current CEO of OnlyFans is actually an Indian woman. So this ended up in back and forth between Michaela Peterson, Nick Fuentes, and Jordan Peterson, because Jordan Peterson has called Nick Fuentes, a rat. Though it was interesting to see that Jordan Peterson's latest interview is with Tommy Robinson, whose next rally in London is July 27th. So Tommy Robinson is now acceptable to the intellectual dark web. So Lawrence Fox has spoken to him, and now Jordan Peterson, who is obviously with the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's organization, and also founded that Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, which is another intellectual dark web wankfest. So I still think that's a win that Tommy Robinson is considered acceptable in the broader right now. So I still think that's a good thing. And even though I didn't like Rebel News as a user, well, Tommy allowed himself to be used by Rebel News to for another legal fundraiser when he was detained visiting Canada. That I thought I was cynical of that again, but I've said in the past, Tommy was my red pill when I was just a postmodernist liberal who'd grown up quite cocooned in the white, overwhelmingly white majority Mornington Peninsula, where I thought that I will continue to be a liberal democracy by even through importing people from other nations. And Tommy Robinson showed me that no, mass migration, it will lead to a reversal of liberal postmodernism. The other bit of, e-drama, or to use the more salacious term, or you could say online personality developments. Lucas Gage, who is probably the most you would say most hardcore anti-Semite who is on social media. He's a Marine Corps veteran, so his basically sole posting is about Jewish supremacy. He was swatted a couple of times. That's when somebody who doesn't like you, they find out your home address, and they often do it when you're on air, say that, oh, you heard gunshots there, or there's a fire, or like, there's some sort of domestic dispute there, and then the SWAT team turn up. And so that happened to him twice. And then he filmed a video. He said some Jew sent me a Israeli flag hoping I would burn it. But I'd said I'm going to destroy it with this Roman sword. And so he filmed himself slashing it. And so he's been suspended for 6 months because of that. Probably would have just, obviously, I don't support him, but if he wanted to avoid suspension, maybe it just would have been better just to burn the flag, like what other people do with flags that they don't like. All right, everybody, that brings us to the end of another Tim's News Explosion. Thank you, Tricky Woo, for jumping into the chat. Says they pay Goy to front their degenerate businesses. Got a row. Thanks, Tim. Linda Hunter says Tim and Rebel News do good work too. I mean, Rebel News is not all bad. I particularly like over in Canada, David the Menzoid Menzies, who, of course, was relentless in pursuing Kayla Lemieux. Remember that shop teacher who decided to transition with the fake breasts and went undercover at the school board meeting dressed up similarly. He's their most valuable player and seriously underrated. So I do like him as well. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and thank you for watching the Unshackled's coverage of the past week from the UK general election result to the Tucker Carlson coverage from his event in Melbourne. They've all gone very good on all our Unshackled socials. Remember, if you want to support the work of the Unshackled, so I can continue to bring you Unshackled productions, such as this show, Wilms Front, and of course, the Report from Tiger Mount with Richard Wollstonecroft, which is there'll be another one later this week. You can support us over on Substack at the unshackled.net. The unshackled.substack.com/subscribe. I put the link into the live chat. You can, so there's monthly $5 per month, annual $50 per year, founding member $500 per year, and still have over at the unshackled.net/membership, our regular membership program, where it is you can take it a bronze $5 per month, $50 per year, silver $10 per month, $100 per year, gold $25 per month, $250 per year, platinum $50 per month, $500 per year. It certainly all helps. And also my weekly segments on Reality Check Radio over in New Zealand continue. So every Tuesday morning, I present the Wilms Report. I give an Australian update to the New Zealand-based Freedom Station. So Reality Check Radio, and of course Dewey DeBoer, my former Trad Tasman Talk co-host, who of course we did a one-off special while Reality Check Radio was off the air. He does the dialogue every week on Reality Check Radio from 1 to 3 p.m. New Zealand time, which is 3 to 5 p.m. Australian time every Friday there. So we're all very active. thank you again. It's very cold here in Melbourne, so make sure that you stay warm. It is very cold. Stay sane, stay optimistic, and don't be too despairing like sometimes we are. Don't get too black-pilled. Stay optimistic, stay happy, stay safe, and stay free. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's